Oh, hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Rebel Roundup, Rebel News' daily news and opinion show. I'm your regular host, Sheila Gunn Reid, and I'm joined by a Monday sub, Drea Humphrey from British Columbia. Drea, how's it going?
Well, it's going good where I am, and I'm glad that today is the day that I'm subbing because we have the important issue of the Summerland fires to chat about in British Columbia. So happy to shed light on that horrific situation. And I am a sub, but I know the drill. And in
You
case you
do.
guys don't, one of the best things about this is that you can be part of our daily news live, and you can also support our journalism while you do so. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave us what's called a super chat, weigh in on what we're talking about, critique our outfits, whatever it is that's on your mind. And when you donate $5 or more, that goes to help our journalism. It really helps us out. A little bit goes a long way. And if you want to bless us more, thank you. If you're watching on YouTube after the show and you're like, hey, I'd like to support too, you can leave us a super thanks. So thank you for that in advance. But yeah, we read those comments and we do the same on Rumble, our free speech champions. I try to always remember, like, go see if this is on Rumble first. And so you can leave us a Rumble rant over there and much appreciated.
I'll let you take the lead here, Drea, on the British Columbia fires.
Hmm.
I see the usual cast of suspects calling it climate change, as they always tend to. But I'm sure many of these will be naturally occurring through lightning strikes or our old friend arson.
Hmm.
Um, that was the case with British Columbia's fires. I don't know, maybe was it 2017, 2018?
Yeah.
Anyway, Summerland is being hit particularly hard.
It's just tragic. Most fires, as you know, are human caused, and so we don't know the exact cause of this right now. But let's take a look. Let's start with the video there of just a man driving through what has been happening there.
Good God.
Hmm.
Fuck me, man.
I forgot about the
I
swears
don't want to say
warning.
goodbye to it all.
It's
Power lines are
devastating.
down. Oh, man. This is upsetting. This is really fucking upsetting.
I think that's the last F-bomb. But yeah, just the thick of it there. The good news, if you can find any, is I hear at least the latest that like the inner city of Summerland is still intact. But the areas around it, I mean, they've had mass evacuation, many in Penticton, of course. You
Mhm.
saw what that looked like there. And there's a little bit of a critique. I actually can't see our schedule, but I can remember at least this part, which was on the list because I had to switch my setup last second. Um, but there's a little bit of critique that the NDP took too long to react to this. So why don't we show
Right.
that
Yeah.
critique?
Yeah, we
Yep.
have it's a clip of Premier David Eby. He's asked if the Summerland catastrophe, which it is the largest evacuation number in the province's history. And he
Hmm.
actually doesn't have a clue. And he defends his position not to declare a state of emergency.
Yeah. And so he has now, but he didn't do it right away when it was so obvious that that's exactly what we are dealing with.
Right.
Would you say that this is the largest evacuation number in the province's history due to wildfires? And, you know, just bouncing off my colleague's question, just why did it take this long to call a state of emergency? I mean, we're in the early months of August, and as we heard from wildfire officials, that the conditions are explosive. So why did it take so long? And is this the largest evacuation number in our province's history?
Thanks. I'll turn that specific question over to the technical experts. It's definitely the largest of the summer, and it's marked a real escalation in terms of the number of people who are out of their homes. And it is the largest evacuation effort taken so far this year. The fires that we have seen to date have been devastating for families and communities across the province. And part of the work we do around deciding to make the declaration, Minister Green's responsibility under the law is to take that advice from the emergency officials about what tools they need. Do they need the tools that are enabled by this? We don't want to desensitize people to how significant it is declaring a provincial state of emergency.
Oh, I'm full of opinions on this because your COVID state of emergency in British Columbia lasted 469 days for the flu. For the flu. So from March 18th, 2020 to July 1st, 2021, the people of British Columbia were under a state of emergency for a flu. And he's worried about desensitizing people to a state of emergency? Give me a break. We just saw the wall of flame at Summerland. Like, look at this. This feels like an emergency to me.
It's obvious, and it was coming. We could all see that it was happening from the fires that were happening in the area. But you're right to bring up that BC was the last jurisdiction in Canada. And at the time when it finally lifted, I did my best to see who else still has restrictions, especially on healthcare, where we need our workers. And I could only find 2 other places in the entire world. I mean, that's how radical this province is with their state of emergency when they want to control everybody for the flu, like you said. And although it's super important, absolutely important when a child goes missing to put out that alert, in British Columbia, we get that alert all the time, you know, when mom and dad had a dispute or whatever. Thank God most of the kids are fine. I always try to pay attention. They seem to always be getting found in our area. But so are we going to say, oh, we don't want to desensitize people when children are missing? Like, these homes have burnt down. Like, it makes zero sense. And it's just embarrassing, honestly, that that's what he had to say there. Kian Bexty from the Juno News had an interesting sort of dig there that we can show there. About how some are treating the land, back to our point about how most of these fires are man-caused. And then, of course, you have the lightning and things like that. Let's see his post.
This one, thank you, Mr. Mark Carney, for letting these new Canadians into our beautiful national parks for free. I bet they really appreciate the invitation and treated our natural wonders with respect while forest fires raged just a few hours to the west. So this was 2 people throwing their barbecue into the river at Jackfish Lake, allegedly to hide it while a fire ban was in effect in Banff National Park. They say they witnessed it while paddleboarding and sent Yegwave, which is an aggregator, the photos. Looks like the usual suspects too, by the way. If you've ever tried to use a national park in the last 5 years, it's horrendous. I live next door to Elk Island National Park, which is the closest national park to Edmonton, which means it gets a lot of urbanites frequenting it to enjoy the nature. And
don't go looking for Sheila, people.
You won't find me. I'm like Sasquatch. You'll just see my hair stuck to the trees like Sasquatch. But it's full of garbage in the lake. And it's even worse. Look, I have to preface this by saying I'm not somebody who believes even really in parks, like national parks. I don't think the government should be telling me where and how and when I can use nature, as long as I can respect it. I think there should be massive fines, huge, like jail time for littering. But if you had that enforcement in place, you wouldn't need all the extras mitigating what happens in a national park. But it's even worse when Mark Carney, or for that matter, Justin Trudeau, makes the parks free. Because there's no investment in keeping it clean. There's no bar for entry. It's one of the reasons I have a Costco card. It's pretty nice in the Costco, you know, you have to pay to get in there. I wish that there was more respect for the vast beauty of this place. And if there isn't going to be, throw the book at these people.
Yeah, I think that's
special jails for litterers.
I think that's the key there, is throwing the book at the people, because I mean, if you go back, maybe 15 years, you'd never see what you're seeing here. You'd never see the litter.
Never.
Every park I go to now, as I'm just walking down the path, you can see litter everywhere, and that's a new thing. And so we do need to throw the book of people. It's not that parks shouldn't be free, in my opinion. We pay tax dollars for that. We got to crack down, just like we got to be tough on crime. There's one more video I want to show, and maybe there's something else important there too, but I do want to show one. You know, as horrible as this all is, it has a slight happy ending, if you will, on that. I think it's the last video in that on that topic.
On this topic.
Mm-hmm.
Out front of our house right now. Our camera is still working, which means our generator is still working. And the generator is just to the right of that fire a little bit, so we might not be able to get this video anywhere, but that's the only camera we got. Just burnt down 2 sea cans full of stuff. A shed with a lawnmower and a bunch of other stuff.
I can't understand how that tree is.
Stay away from the house. Can't believe that thing's still standing. Travel trailer.
I would have hooked to the travel trailer. When they left.
Yeah.
The house is still there. Is
Yeah.
it a water bomber?
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's the good news everybody needed to see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, God bless our emergency response people. Apparently a good place to find out how to help if you want, if you go to helpsummerland.ca, if you feel led to do so, that is a good option. But yeah, I love that ending there, but not the ending for many, many, many people who have said they've already lost their home. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
as Albertans, we can relate. You know, a couple of years ago, we dealt with Jasper, Fort McMurray. A couple of times in the last 10 years, we had Slave Lake also in the interim. So we are, you know, for Albertans, this brings back memories of what has happened in our forested communities, maybe the last 15 or so years. That was good news. I hate to show the bad news, but we should acknowledge it because this is somebody who belonged to other people. Penticton RCMP confirmed the first death related to the Bald Range wildfire. Approximately 55 people were airlifted Friday night after the fast-moving blaze forced a chaotic overnight evacuation of the entire community. 80-year-old Meadow Valley woman has died as a result of the Bald Range wildfire. The woman was attempting to leave her home with one family member when she died suddenly. So she died in the evacuation and not directly related to the fire, which is similar to what happened in Fort McMurray. They had one loss of life there when 1/3 of the town burned down. It was a car accident on the highway. So,
Oh no.
anyway,
Yeah.
this terrible news, but
Yeah.
it was a sudden death of an 80-year-old lady who was attempting to leave her home, but no other fatalities have been reported to the police. And I like to think this is the close proximity to the forest sector in that area that
Yeah.
a lot of people, and again, this was the case in Alberta with Slave Lake, where it's just an oil patch town, Fort McMurray, an oil patch town, where everybody has safety training, everybody, or not everybody, but in Fort McMurray and Slave Lake, that certainly was the case. But the closer you are to heavy industry, the more likely you are to be safety trained, to muster, to know how to evacuate. And it saves lives in the case of emergency, not just on the job site.
Yeah, absolutely. Ugh.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I think that's everything on that topic. I could use an ad break early. I don't know about you. It's
Sure,
I've
I
had enough
spilt
tragedy.
water. I spilt
spilled
water
water.
all over the floor when I was panicking to switch up the settings. So I can wipe it up during the ad break and then we'll see
Okay,
you guys right after.
Let's an early ad break. We'll come back on the other side.
All right.
For generations, many Canadians have preserved more than just firearms.
Many of our men and women
They've
clad in
preserved
uniform.
history, tradition, competition, memories. But under Trudeau, and now Carney, heirlooms, estates, collectibles, and competition firearms now have to be surrendered and destroyed. While violent gun criminals get pass after pass, openly ignoring any legislation, lawful gun owners are trapped in an increasingly unfair legal system. But we can help. Canada's National Firearms Association's Save Firearms program offers the legal pathway to preserve what matters, while we work towards a political solution. Don't let yours be next. Save history, save heritage, save firearms. Visit nfa.ca today to learn more.
In Canada, firearms owners like me understand the importance of safe, effective self-defense options. That's why we're proud to have Byrna as a sponsor. Byrna's less lethal launchers are designed to help protect you and your family without taking a life. Byrna offers peace of mind, accessibility, and a practical layer of personal security for Canadians who value safety. Learn more at byrna.ca/rebel. That's BYRNA.ca/rebel.
Hey folks, do you love a good cup of coffee? Are you, like me, banned for life from visiting Tim Hortons? Well,
No,
I
we're
have
not. No, not everybody is.
Not everybody.
Just you and me.
But I am. Folks, I have great news. Check it out. This is Rebel News Special Edition Coffee. Rebel News and Resistance Coffee have partnered to bring you something special to wake up to. Resistance Coffee is a family-run Canadian coffee company, unlike Tim Hortons, by the way. And while the big chains wrap themselves in the flag and turn their backs on Canadian workers, Resistance Coffee has been doing the real thing all along, available only at rebelcoffee.ca. A 5-pound bag and bundles qualify for a $9.99 flat rate shipping nationwide. It is worth every penny. Folks, this is great coffee, and this is the coffee to brew. Rebel News.
All right, we've got a quick message. Sorry, I'm so slouchy in my chair. We've got a quick message from our friends at Rumble Wallet to help pay the bills around here because, as you know, we don't take any money from the government to do what we do. We hear a lot about crypto, but here's the part most people miss. Crypto was created so you could actually own and control your money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you're in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you've felt that problem. Now, fast forward to today. Everyone's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. That's exactly why I use Rumble Wallet. It takes all that complexity and makes it simple. Choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stablecoins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, debit card, or bank and be up and running in minutes. Once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like me directly. So do this now. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. All right. Thank you to our friends at Rumble Wallet. We're not speculating. I just want to, before we tidy up on the fire issue and then move on, we're not speculating when I say that the usual suspects, of course, are blaming climate change. But the majority of these fires are human caused. And wouldn't you know it, the BC police actually think that there's some truth to that. This is from Clinton, BC. BC police are launching arson investigations into some wildfires, including the ones in the interior and Metro Vancouver. So possible arson incidents come as firefighters fear an increase in fire starts amid tinder dry conditions across the south of the province, where raging fires have destroyed hundreds of homes and forced thousands to evacuate. The Shuswap Regional District says RCMP are investigating after residents reported 3 fires in a ditch on Squillix, Englemont Road at 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday. The district says the suspicious fires were spaced about 100 meters apart. Ain't that convenient? And fire crews were being dispatched, some in about 2 or more fires. Some calls came in about 2 or more fires in the regional or in the nearby Englemont Estates area. The fires were brought under control and crews conducted community tactical patrols, I can't even read today, throughout the night to ensure public safety. Coquitlam RCMP are meanwhile asking for witnesses or those with video in the Belcarra Regional Park on Wednesday to come forward saying the cause of the wildfire there this week is being investigated. That fire triggered this season's first evacuation alerts for Metro Vancouver in the village of Anmore, about 30 kilometers east of Vancouver. So these are just two incidents where they are pretty sure that these were intentionally started. And those are the ones that they got to before they spread to something much worse.
Like you said, got to throw the book away at the arsonist too, which they don't get enough time either.
The arsonists, the people who break fire bans, if you're having a fire during a fire ban, you're going to be in the jail with the litter bugs in my perfect world for a very long time. Because it just makes it terrible for everybody. That's how you end up with special jails, special jails for litter bugs and people who break fire bans. Because people breaking fire bans or disrespecting fire bans is how we ended up with the intense government overreach of the woods ban, right? Remember when they banned people from walking in the woods because of the wildfires?
Yeah.
If you just actually treated people who break the fire ban with the full force of the law, things would be a lot different. But there's very little discouragement out there in real crimes. If you're mischievous and you criticize the government, then that's a whole other story.
And on that note, on the note of the climate change alarmism, I think we have our first super chat. That's how people join in for $5 or more. And maybe read that. I can no longer see it. But
yeah, no problem. This is from Sasquatch Chronicles. Gives us $9.99. Climate change is the unlawful act of intentionally setting a fire or damaging property. Someone who commits climate change is called a climate change activist. Yep. Yeah,
pretty much.
It's funny though, because if you've ever met an environmentalist, they're like the least outdoorsy people on the face of the earth. Like you look at them and you're like, have you ever been outside?
They're very basement dwelling looking.
Very urban.
Mom's basement dwelling looking.
Gravel does not touch their Birkenstocks, let me tell you that. Okay. Let's stay on the topic of British Columbia. First Nations, heavy on the quotation marks, First Nations chiefs in British Columbia call on Carney and Smith to halt the West Coast pipeline. Now, I like pipelines. I don't care for this one, not for environmental reasons. I just don't think the government, or the taxpayer rather, the government doesn't have any money. They just have yours. I don't think that the taxpayer should be forced to pay for a pipeline that the private sector would absolutely love to build if you would just repeal all the things preventing the private sector from thinking that a pipeline to the West Coast would ever make sense.
Exactly.
So I want all the pipelines to be built. I would love a spider web of pipelines coming from Alberta, but the only way that happens is if the government gets out of the way. But now these First Nations chiefs, and Globe and Mail publishes this completely uncritically, they're calling on Mark Carney and Smith to halt the pipeline. They're saying this is how Globe and Mail they represent these chiefs. A group that represents numerous First Nations across British Columbia is calling on Ottawa and Alberta's government to halt efforts to advance the West Coast pipeline, saying expanding the oil industry will accelerate climate change and disasters. The destructive and disastrous consequences of expanding fossil fuel production extend far beyond any single territory, the Union of British Columbia Indian Chiefs said in a letter addressed to Prime Minister Mark Carney and Danielle Smith. From catastrophic wildfires, which, let's just put a pin on this, are being fought using fossil fuels. You show me a water bomber that doesn't require avgas. Anyways, from catastrophic wildfires to destructive floods and rising seas. Oh, they brought that one back, did they? That's a blast from the past. The impacts of climate change are already being felt across this country. Every new fossil fuel project deepens that crisis. And the letter signed by the group's heads, including Grand Chief Stuart Phillip, and said BC Premier David Eby also has a copy of it. Now, is this a real group? No, my friends. No. So I think Ezra had a tweet about this, but this Union of Chiefs is actually a lobby group.
Yes. Of
And it's not
course.
really a union of chiefs. I think my friend Corey Morgan over at albertafactcheck.com got to it this morning before I did. Albertafactcheck.com is a joint project between myself and Corey Morgan as part of my third-party advertiser, Alberta's Choice, so albertas-choice.com. We get up with the chickens and we get debunking the lies from the night before. But it's an advocacy group called the Union of British Columbia Indian Chiefs. They don't really actually represent anybody. And as Corey writes, legacy media outlets dutifully reported on the letter as if it represented all or a majority of BC's Indigenous chiefs, including the ones that are pro liquefied natural gas and pro pipeline.
Yeah, creates so many jobs.
Yeah, the organization's self-reporting indicates that fewer than half of BC's Indigenous bands make up its membership. Of that half, it's difficult to determine where band leadership lands within the group. So Indigenous bands, as Corey points out, haven't been eager to fund the UBCIC as it gets, wait for this, 93% of its funding from taxpayers at the federal and provincial levels of government. Only 7% of the budget comes from dues paid by union members. So this is just the government, which is blocking pipelines, paying a front group to block pipelines.
You've hit it on the nail there. What this lobbyist group does, in my opinion, is just create a statement that is the talking points for the NDP or even the Liberals sometimes. And then it makes sense. I didn't know they were getting 90% of their funds there, but that
93.
93% of their funds there. That doesn't surprise me, though. I put some other examples of when they come out and say, and the average person thinks it's all the chiefs that they're representing. Most recently, of course, they're coming out and with their support to criminalize whatever the heck residential school denialism is. And they put their statement out on the anniversary of the unmarked graves. Even the Kamloops ban isn't even saying the same thing anymore. So they keep that lie alive. When meanwhile, I have emails from band members from Kamloops saying, thank you so much for your coverage on this. We are so embarrassed at the way that our nation has handled this. It's embarrassing that everybody knows this isn't true. Thank you. Keep it up. But you have this lobbyist group acting like it's all of the chiefs speaking for wanting to criminalize people who talk about this issue. Another example, going ahead of Dr. Francis Widowson's university stops to, again, talk freely with whoever wants to talk there. University students should be a place for freedom of speech and debate. Well, this union will go out and put a statement. Can't prove the connection, but there's definitely a correlation between them putting out a statement and a violent mob at these universities coming and, already trumped up with this false narrative of what Miss Widowson's there to do. And then she gets arrested, like literally. And the last example I have there, and you would remember this well, is when the churches were burning. It's all connected, actually, my examples, I suppose, to the false 215 claims of finding children's bodies at the former residential school in Kamloops. But when the mass church spree followed that, and if you remember, the head of BC's Civil Liberties Association, Harsha Walia, at the time, she said, burn it all down. And who came out and put a statement to her defense? This same lobbyist group that has a name that fools everybody and gives the mainstream media some sort of credibility for the lies they keep spreading.
Yeah, I'm going to find that burn it all down tweet.
Yeah, madness. The head of our civil liberties, when churches burn, says burn it all down. And you've got this organization funded by our tax dollars saying, oh, we support her. But you better not talk about the fake unmarked grave claim or you go to jail.
Well, and it's exactly. Are you like a free speech absolutist or are you not a free speech absolutist?
Exactly.
So this is what she said. This is in response to 2 Catholic churches being torched amid ongoing reports that more than 1,000 unmarked graves of Indigenous children were found at former residential schools. So this is when we had a spate of over 100 churches being burned or otherwise vandalized.
Which
across
started
the
in
country.
BC, like it kicked off in BC. That's where she's speaking up right now, is when it first starts.
Yeah, so June 30th, 2021, she says, burn it all down. And they write this nonsensical press release, which, by the way, I write a fair number of press releases in my role over at the Independent Press Gallery as the president. And I'll give you some advice for free, UBCIC. What in the hell kind of headline is this?
I
Nobody's
know.
reading this.
They're all
Nobody's
like
reading
that.
this novel that you want to put in the headline. Listen to this is one headline, okay? It should just, if you get beyond 10 words, you just have to stop and think
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Nobody's reading this essay. BCCLA board's letter to community and weak support for Harsha Walia validates racist, alt-right agenda and proves misogyny and discrimination continue to silence Indigenous peoples and their allies.
It's horrible. It's horrible, but it's exactly what the socialist NDP wants and their state friends, state media friends.
Nobody's reading that. They put every grievance in the headline.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh. Yeah.
All right. Let's keep going. In the Toronto Sun, Mark Carney vacations in Tuscany while Trump's 50% tariff deadline looms. And as Graham Menzies points out on X, over recent years, the Canadian taxpayer has footed the bill to the tune of $14 million for Harrington Lake, which is the Prime Minister's summer residence, for upgrades. I think we put in a hot tub and a sauna for Justin Trudeau, a bee farm for some reason. I think they're trying to run a boutique apiary over there when Justin Trudeau was in his farm wife era. And then they upgraded the rink on the ice. They maintain the rink on the ice there, even if nobody's there, and the cross-country ski trails as well. So, you know, like if your prime minister is unwilling to vacation in the summer in the country that he runs, what does that tell you about the state of our country?
Even as there's a state emergency in BC, you think he'd show up at some of the evacuee sites. And,
feels like it's important.
It feels a little important, just a little. And yeah, this is the man who's supposed to have the plan, right? So he just buggers off to Tuscany.
Yeah, it said in a note sent to the Parliamentary Press Gallery on Saturday, the PMO announced that Carney will be on a, quote, reduced schedule in the week of August 10th, and that Carney will be in Italy for, quote, personal commitments until August 17th. So he's taking a week-long vacation in Tuscany. What other personal commitment might you have? Flight trackers show Can Force One departed Ottawa on Friday afternoon, landing in St. John's a short time later after a brief stop in, I don't know what YYT is, presumably for a technical stop for fuel. If you guys know what YYT is, just put it in the chat. I don't know the call signal for that airport, although I do know many. The Prime Minister's CC 144D Challenger departed eastbound over the Atlantic Ocean, landing in Grosseto, Italy, a city in the Italian region of Tuscany. No further details about the trip were disclosed by the PMO, despite the timing of the trip, including ongoing high-stakes negotiations. High stakes. I think Dominic LeBlanc spent 90 minutes on it over the weekend. Wow, really feels like he's burning the midnight oil on that. With the Americans over trade and continuing economic uncertainty at home, the PMO insists Carney won't be out of reach. Oh, well, what a relief. During this period, he is in close contact with his team and officials on several priorities, including the ongoing Canada-US trade negotiations.
Well,
our trade deal, the deadline before we get those tariffs is August 19th. So he's going to be gone from the 10th to the 17th.
It's insane. And I know he just showed up in Canada from God knows where, but I don't think he has family in Italy. So again, back to this personal commitment. Is it a Brookfield connected commitment? Like what do you have to go to Italy that you can't do on Zoom because you're at the end of this negotiation period? Why Italy? Like it just...
You can't visit the vineyards on
it has
Zoom,
to be.
Drea.
It has to be in the vineyards.
This from the Food Professor. It's a video. I think it's from CBC. The most honest and forthright conversation about the Canada-US MCA. and what Canada needs to do that I've heard in a long time. It should have happened at least 12 months ago, if not sooner.
I think he means CUSMA, the
USMA.
Canada,
Yeah.
United States,
I say it
Mexico
the other
agreement.
way. A
Oh.
USMCA.
Yeah.
It's the same. It just
That's
puts
like
the US first.
That's like me with Chat PGT. I always say it that way.
Well, the
it's
Americans
GPT.
say the USMCA,
Mhm. Oh,
and
okay.
we say CUSMA.
Okay.
Donald Trump, with all of his flaws, is smart, and he has cornered Canada ahead of August 19th, they say. Let's watch.
This is the right moment to sort of continue on with pursuing CUSMA. Do we need to have a bigger, broader conversation about whether this is even worth it?
We unfortunately need it. And so there is no other option. And the Prime Minister has acknowledged that himself in the change of tone, change in message. He's gone from last year's election campaign to a speech in New York where it was about making America great again with a Canada strong. That is an acknowledgement that we need this North American fortress they are now talking to. And so they are forced to play on the playing field that Donald Trump has set. And that is just the state of play. I think it's really important to note and emphasize everything that we're hearing, your reporting, my reporting, all the reporting we're seeing all shows that this is not a return in any way to normal. Canada is making concessions for less pain, not no pain. They are concessions to have still some form of tariffs. It's just not as bad. And to the question of the premiers that you started the conversation on, Donald Trump, for all his faults, is smart. The 338 tariffs that are threatened to come in a week and a half target BC, Ontario, and Quebec. So if those premiers say, no, our booze ban stays in effect, then those same premiers are looking at a 50% tariff that decimates some of their key industries. And so he has them cornered in many ways. The Prime Minister says there are positions of strength that Canada has. He keeps those cards close to his chest. So we're just seeing what's in public. And I would say, these are flashbacks for you more than for me, Katie, but they are much more careful in what they share and what they leak privately or even what meetings they acknowledge compared to the last round that we saw in 2016, 17, 18.
She's right. I can't believe I'm agreeing with Marika Walsh, but she is 100% right. Those tariffs are absolutely targeted, and guess who they miss? Alberta and Saskatchewan, the two provinces that chose a different non-confrontational path with the United States. Danielle Smith went down to Mar-a-Lago.
She did, right away. Yeah.
Right away. She rejected the Doug Ford, David Eby approach to dealing with the Americans. We have American booze on our shelves, which is a trade prickle with the Americans. They find it very insulting. If you walk into an Alberta liquor store or Saskatchewan liquor store, you will find American booze on our shelves. And that's why we dodged the worst of this. We said, we're not going to fight. We're going to figure out how to make this work. We're not like the other guys. And guess where those tariffs were targeted? Not at us. They just passed right over us.
Good point. And she made good points too. Very strange to hear the CBC acknowledge that Trump isn't some sort of dictator, like he's actually smart. There's a method to the madness. I myself get confused about what he's doing at times, but very interesting to see that on the CBC. And back to Carney being in Tuscany. If you look in the comments there and you play like the first 26 seconds of a video there, she had said in her commentary there that, he was just, Carney was saying, we're going to figure it out. We're going to get a deal. And she said months ago, but no, just last month, I think it is. If you look at the very beginning of the video, this is what Mark Carney was saying to the public about this whole issue. Now he's in Tuscany.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys found it there. It's a video of him talking. If not, I can recap, but okay, no worries. Yeah, basically he's just saying, we're going to get it out there and we're not going to let them bully us and you can count on us to take care of this kind of thing. And then he takes his digs at the conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, saying he's so angry and he can't handle it. And now he's in Tuscany. He's in Italy for personal reasons.
And to my point about Alberta and Saskatchewan taking an entirely different approach and being you know, like I don't like to say that grown adults are bullying other grown adults. That just seems ridiculous, especially when they're premiers. But they did draw the ire of the other premiers, and they were accused of being traitors and not being on the team with everybody else. And we were saying, like we provincially were saying, actually, maybe you guys should join our team because what we're doing seems to be working, and you're about to get smoked with tariffs. But here's Scott Moe from, I think this was from the meeting of the premiers last month.
We have 30 days until they come into effect. We've seen the president walk back some of his previous tariffs as well in that time period. This is a prime time for Canada to be very ambitious in getting to that negotiating table and advancing the review of this trade deal, which I don't think any Canadian or American can argue is the most important trade deal that each of us have.
So you don't want to fight elbows down?
I want a trade agreement with the United States of America. They're our largest trading partner, have been for all of our life, yours and I's, and likely will be into the future. At the end of the day, why would you want to fight with your largest trading partner, regardless of what they're saying? We need this trade agreement.
Need.
Why would we want to fight with them?
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott Moe. Exactly. Why are we fighting with them?
And
why are we figuring this out?
And he said, we need, and actually, I don't know the lady who spoke on CBC. She said the same thing. We don't have a choice. We need this.
Walsh,
we need it. This whole elbows up, it's yeah, we can't survive. Like, we got to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, or we could just do like Doug Ford. And what's their solution, by the way?
Eat cherry cheesecakes.
Eat cheesecake and then not fix the tariff problem, and then just give bailout money to the steel industry, which is what they appear to be doing. Ottawa's, they're going to rebate $100 million for steelmakers as the U.S. tariffs loom. So not only are the jobs going to get hammered, but then like that money isn't magic. It comes from somewhere, and it's going to be now directly paid to the steel makers as a bailout, because they can't sort this stuff out. This is completely unsustainable. So Ottawa plans to slash costs to send steel between provinces and territories for the next year in a bid to help domestic producers hit hard by the tariffs. So Transportation Minister Steve McKinnon is announcing a $100 million rebate plan today to pay back manufacturers for half the freight costs to send eligible steel products across the country by rail or marine shipping. The relief is meant to encourage companies that use steel in their manufacturing processes to turn to domestic suppliers rather than rely on U.S. states and other foreign suppliers. So that money comes from somewhere, though. Like, you just can't give money to steel makers out of thin air. It comes from somewhere, and it's unsustainable. A solution should never have been a bailout. A solution should have been, how do we fix this with the Americans?
Yeah. And like you said, it looks like Premier Smith and them, they figured it out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Mark Carney says, this is a tweet from him. It's a great time to be in the trades as you build pipelines. Canada is building big again. That's why we launched Team Canada Strong, our nationwide effort to recruit, train, and hire up to 100,000 skilled trade workers across the country. Okay, but what are they going to build? You know, like,
what are they allowed to build? What
are you going to approve for them to build? We're not building housing. You know, remember when Mark Carney said we're going to build at speeds not seen since World War II? Where?
Yeah, where? You mean buy out your billionaire condo development owners who are overcharging? Is that what you meant?
Olivia,
that's not even building.
Actually, Olivia, or maybe Drea, rag the puck a little bit. Just chat for something. I have to find something on this topic that I saw the other day, and I was like, are you effing kidding me? It's a girl who realizes that where she lives is going to be for affordable housing.
Yeah,
she recognized her building in the Mark Carney announcement. Anyways,
and she had
I'm going to see if
that reminds me of the people who are finding out that for 10 years their private property has been up for potential grabs by Aboriginal title. Mark Carney, well, I suppose back 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been Mark Carney, but the Liberal government, the provincial government, the cities, for example, in Richmond, they all know. They all knew these cases were happening, and the last to know is the homeowners after the fact. So it doesn't surprise me that someone's realizing in their own, on the news, that their property is up for grabs there. So,
oh, Olivia, you found it. Thank you. I found it just now too. So this lady she recognizes the building from Mark Carney's new rental housing announcement and realizes that she lives there, and she had no clue.
Yeah.
When I woke up this morning, I didn't expect to see my building in the news. But this is my building that is a part of a development that is getting federal funding to develop rental housing on this site that will eventually lead to the demolition of all of this rent-controlled housing. Devil is always in the details, and the apparent 184 affordable units that are going to be created on this site that are going to be funded by the federal government, 121 of them are required rental replacement units from this building that is going to be demolished and evict tenants. This is the perfect case study of how federal funding that focuses solely on building, supply, doesn't address the loss of deeply affordable rent-controlled housing like my building. And in certain cases, actively contributes to it. I can't even begin to express to you how much suffering, stress, overwhelm, and anxiety the tenants in this building have gone through to fight for the deal that we did with our developer. And so to know that federal funding is allowing them to build on this site, which will eventually evict us from our homes, is infuriating.
This little socialist is getting mugged by reality. That's what's happening there. You know, she wants, like, she's obviously someone who wants socialized housing. This is what happens when you get it. Also, I don't believe in rent control. Like, rent control is what prevents developers from building housing. You don't get supply on the marketplace because why? Like, if someone is telling you what you can charge for your rental property, and maybe that's below market value, then what is the incentive for you to put more units on the market if you're going to take a loss on them? Like, rent control is what it happened in New York. It prevents people from building out more units because there's no incentive to build out more units. So now this little socialist is realizing, I don't know if actually she'll put this together. The fact that you live in rent control is one of the reasons that there aren't enough units on the market. So then Big Daddy government, with whom she probably is very affectionate for, comes in and says, okay, then we'll handle the housing market. And guess what? Now it's handling her too. So careful what you wish for.
I have a friend who was living in low-income housing, and they were told, oh, you got to either get out here or have a payout for how many years you were in. And so they moved, some people moved across the street to the new development, and it's like half the size of what they were in. And then they find out that they bulldozed where they are, and they're just going to build more. So that's the same thing that's happening. They're going to build more, and they're like, okay, well, why couldn't we just live where we're going to be, kind of thing.
Right.
So there's a lot of that stuff, I think, going on.
Yeah, and I should clarify, there's a difference between low income housing and rent controlled housing. Those are two different things. And rent control, where you tell a landlord what they can charge for rent, is how you get fewer landlords, and not everybody can afford to buy a house. So some people do need to rent. And if you are telling the landlords, look, your rent is capped at this, then you don't have people putting rental supply on the market. And so then you don't have enough rental units. And then guess what happens to the price of rental units? So it actually has the opposite effect of what it's designed to do, because it limits the supply.
During our last provincial election, Rustad, when he was running, there was something called the Rustad rebate. So their solution was not to stop that, but to offer a tax break to the renters, and actually to the landlords as well, to kind of help offset that, but not stop what you're describing. Why are you going to do that? That's going to stop having more housing, so more landlords.
Yeah, there are ways that you can do it where you can incentivize rental properties without crushing the landlord.
But we
Anyway,
still have the NDP, so that never happened.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. I also, for some reason, have a little project called Justice Watch because I definitely don't have enough things on my plate every day. So I was like, Sheila, just pile another one on there. Make it a mountain instead of a hill. And so I do this little thing every morning called Justice Watch, and I wake up and I look to see who's a bad judge. And then I try to, unlike other news places, put the judge's name in a headline because judges in Canada aren't elected. So you can't unelect them if they're just making bad decisions, but you can name and shame them a little bit. And I believe if you measure something for long enough, you might change it and, or at least shine a light on it so that people realize what's happening around here. And so this was the one that came to me this morning. Justice John Norris gives Marxist regime informant whose targets were tortured another chance to stay in Canada. And I realize that's a long headline, but it's not as long as the Union of Chiefs or whatever. The federal court orders consideration for former Derg informant who gathered intelligence on political opponents in Ethiopia's Marxist-Leninist dictatorship. So this guy was informing on his fellow citizens. His fellow citizens then became the targets of torture. And he knew that. He came to Canada as a refugee, even though he was on team bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
He came in as someone who was one of the oppressed, even though we know now fully that he was working for the regime. He was deemed inadmissible. I'm pronouncing things as though I'm Candace Owens today. and
Please no.
And so he was deemed inadmissible to Canada for crimes against humanity. And he was ordered deported 9 years ago. And anyways, for nearly 2 years, he gathered information on people suspected of belonging to opposition. Those people were tortured. Some of them were maybe even killed. He shouldn't be here. And yet his case roils on through the court system. And anyways, he's got more time. He's been here inadmissible for 9 years, and they've decided he just needs more time.
I mean, so much to say. I think it's great that you're doing this initiative. Of course, it's to bring what's normally done in the dark to the light, and not, of course, to harass or anything these judges, but so that they can have that public scrutiny for situations like this. These types of situations, these types of rulings affect everyone. And I think we all experienced in COVID how we all thought we had constitutional rights. Remember that thing? And then COVID happened and there was all of these cases. And it was like, no, it seemed to me, covering so many of those cases, that the judges were just scared to make a decision that perhaps the public wouldn't like. So if the public is more aware and the judge's name is in it and they're saying, I can't believe this judge made this decision, I believe that will have an impact, even though it shouldn't. A judge should not be worried about what the public is going to say about their decision. They should be worried about the law.
Right. But many of these judges like the fact that their name is often never published in the news articles, because it keeps them in polite company. You know, they get to go to the fancy parties and they get to have the fancy friends. And if their names are ever published in an article, it's like paragraph 8, 9, 10 maybe. And people wonder what's wrong with the justice system. A lot of it is political judges.
Sure.
With sympathy for the devil for some reason.
Yeah. It's time. Long overdue. Good work, Sheila.
Thank you. Olivia, I don't want to put you on the spot, but there's this incredible story I wrote up today out of Saskatchewan. And again, this is the problem with the most interesting part of the story being in the eighth paragraph. I brought it up in the morning call. I couldn't believe what I was reading. It's a story of a woman who was trafficked in Saskatchewan.
Right. Yeah.
Saskatchewan restaurant operators, it's not clear if they're Canadian citizens or not. They were convicted of trafficking a Bangladeshi worker. One was withheld, one of the two restaurant owners that she was trafficked between withheld her passport for sex. So Mohammed Masoom Sohail and Sohail Haider were taken into custody after a judge found they exploited a woman's immigration status and her fear of being forced to leave Canada. 2 Saskatchewan Party MLAs were instrumental in her rescue. These guys are heroes. Let's scroll down. I wanted to put that in the subheadline because it's so important to what happened with her. So,
do you think that it was buried? The interesting part was buried on purpose? I mean, the stats are out there. Nobody's reading that long in an article.
And the other, like when I searched for other reporting on this, they didn't even identify which party these guys were from. So, scroll back up so we can just talk about the circumstances. So she arrived in Canada from Bangladesh in August 2022 and later traveled to Saskatchewan seeking work that would allow her to remain in the country. She began working at Haider's restaurant in Gull Lake in September of 2022. Although Haider did not yet have government approval to employ her, the arrangement was supposed to provide her with free room and board and $1,000 a month. Martinez the judge found that she instead worked long hours 6 days a week and was never paid. In November, Haider sent her to a Tisdale restaurant operated by Masoom. There, the court heard she routinely worked 12-hour shifts 6 days a week. On her days off, Masoom generally required her to accompany him on trips to Saskatoon to purchase restaurant supplies. So this is where these two heroes come in. Remember their names. Saskatchewan Party Cypress Hills MLA Doug Steele. He just knew something was wrong. He encountered the woman while she was working at Haider's restaurant and became concerned about her welfare. Steele then contacted then area Sask Party MLA Hugh Neerland. So he contacted the local MLA. He's not the local MLA, but he knew something was up. Something didn't sit right with him. So then he contacted the MLA that was there after she was sent to Tisdale. So he sort of kept track of her a little bit. Neerland subsequently visited the restaurant and secretly passed the woman his business card along with contact information for a social worker. And that's how she got out.
Wow.
Steele and the social worker developed what Martinez described as a plan to clandestinely extract her from the situation, and they carried out the plan March 23, 2023. And so one of the MLAs, I think both of them, testified in the court about how they just knew something was wrong. And they sort of colluded together to make sure that she got the information that she needed to get her out of there. And, in the other reporting, they never even identified what party they were from. These are two conservative, rural conservative MLAs. Heroes who saved this woman from a life of sex trafficking and slavery.
Yeah, that's the breaking news right there. I need to catch up on exactly what the signs are. I'm just interested what they caught on to, but it's a reminder for us to put down our phones sometimes. Don't walk around looking at your phone, look people in the eye, see what's going on around you. You never know, right? So I'm glad they weren't buried in their phones and they were paying attention to that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. Good news story. Just something doesn't feel right. It probably isn't. That's what intuition is. Okay, we're almost done. Let's leave on this video from Rosemary Barton, your favorite Drea, your friend Rosemary.
She refused to shake my hand.
Yeah, I think you were probably one of the reasons we got the cops called on us, debates. And anyways, CBC had to issue a correction thanks to Rosemary Barton's treatment of Drea during the debates, where she said you were peddling in disinformation while Rosemary herself was the peddler.
It was the most complaints CBC had ever gotten in a short period of time.
Deservedly
so. Thank you guys. Thanks for coming to my defense after she defamed me.
Most people might be taken off the air for a week after that sort of screw up, but not Rosie. Anyway, I called her a peddler of disinformation, but I think that's probably the only peddling she does. Rosemary Barton argues that Ottawa is finally making progress for Alberta, but Keith Wilson, trucker lawyer and independence advocate with a third-party advertiser of his own, just gives it to her. And by the way, it's Keith Wilson's birthday today.
Aw,
So happy birthday, Keith. So he shuts her right down, and I just love this.
Yeah.
So as you alluded to there, this gives you some time to try and build support. It's happening at a time when the Premier is now pretty clear about where she stands. She wants, obviously, Alberta to remain. And you have a federal government who's going to try and demonstrate why Alberta should remain. So how are you planning to try and build support in that context?
Well, where I do strongly disagree with the Premier is I don't think we've had the progress that she describes. I respectfully think she's overstating things. We haven't had a repeal of what's known in Alberta as the 9 bad laws. We still have the tanker ban. The oil industry here, as you know from your coverage, is very concerned about the feasibility of the combined cost of the industrial carbon tax, the Pathways Project, the methane emissions. And Albertans who are seeking independence, concerns are not purely economic. There's serious concerns about other policies that have come out of Ottawa that we don't feel many of us align with our values.
There has been progress, though, on those 9 bad laws, and there is, I would argue, a push from the federal government now for another pipeline, whether that tanker ban remains in place. But there does seem to be, and you tell me if you don't feel the same, there does seem to be a recognition from this government that things need to improve for Alberta.
Well, I hope that's the case, and I hope that we see more of that. What I find striking is that remedying some of the policies from the last 11 years that Albertans perceive to be harmful to our interests is actually easy, because there's many things that governments are asked to do at any level that are actually quite challenging. But this one's not. It's simply, the No More Pipelines law was Bill C-69. That could be repealed and take us back to the environmental assessment framework that we had before that facilitated billions of dollars of investment and job creation. Yeah. And the Prime Minister refuses to go there. I just don't understand it.
Go Keith.
Yeah. I mean, go Keith, exactly. Yeah. But he's right. A lot of the problems facing Alberta and driving Western separatism are entirely easily fixable. These are laws that the government passed like that, and they could repeal them just like that. We told them what our grievances are. We keep telling them.
Yeah.
All you have to do is fix them.
it. Yeah.
But they're not. So we're trying to fix it for ourselves.
So why do you think it's not happening?
I think that it's happening for a lot of the same reasons that Alberta and Saskatchewan are not the province of Buffalo. So for people who don't know, just before Alberta and Saskatchewan joined Confederation together, we were going to be a province which was initially proposed as the province of Buffalo. We even had selected our own capital. And I think at the last minute, our Laurentian overlords, and there's, some history to my suspicions, they thought that we would be perhaps one day too powerful. They didn't necessarily know what we had. At the time, we didn't have people, really. But we were settled for much different reasons, and people with a different ethos. We've always felt more, I'm not saying that we don't feel Canadian, although some of us may feel otherwise now, but we also had a very American freedom-minded mentality, more so than other places. We were founded by different people at a different time than the rest of the country who came for different reasons. They didn't really know about our resources. They weren't really discovered. They didn't know we had oil and gas and mining and minerals and lithium and potash, and that we would become an agricultural powerhouse too. They didn't really know how much coal we had, but they knew that if we left this big chunk in the West undivided, that it one day might hold outsized power over the central Canadian control. And so at the last minute, with no regard for who lived there or what it would mean, they just drew a line in between us. And that's how we ended up with the town of Lloydminster cut completely in half. They didn't care. They didn't even try to carve it out. They just were like, screw them.
Jeez.
And so I think that's the reasoning still applies today. Keep us under control so that we don't have power, because our economic contributions to this country are not matched by parliamentary power. So we remain a colony.
Yeah. Well, it's a very good theory. So
yeah, it's just my theory.
I feel like you should throw to your book now.
Yeah, you know what? If you want, I have a book. It's not specifically on that topic, but it is on what we can learn about Quebec, and it's called Independence Blueprint, what Alberta can learn from Quebec, and it's at independenceblueprint.com or on Amazon. You order it today, I'll be at your house tomorrow. I examined the process of the Quebec referendum and how they engaged in discussions with their people, and some of, well, not some, all of the concerns that the Quebec public had, and what happened with Project Fear and how that sort of changed the polls in the last minute. But the public engagement was so vast and so rigorous. And I got my hands on the documents from those commissions. There were hundreds of commissions, traveling commissions, and they engaged people specifically in their demographics. So commissions for older people, commissions for younger people. And it was just a complete and total airing of the dirty laundry for all to see, so that nothing was left hidden in the darkness. And we're starting to do some of that here in Alberta, particularly with Keith Wilson's work, both at Let Alberta Decide and his Transition Council. So anyways, thank you, Drea, for allowing me to do that. I think, I'm not sure if we have any chats. I think, oh, there's one more chat. Oh wait, what are the Forever Canadian people doing? Oh, we've got a cringe. I know we've gone over. I didn't even think we'd make the hour.
I thought the cringe was Rosie Barton.
Oh no, we've got one. Is this the Elbows Up Boomers are on Facebook? A Liberal Party of Canada is in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And anyways, let's just look at this. Stereotypes are stereotypes because by and large they are true. And this is look at.
Oh man. Okay, they were kind of cute. I'm not gonna lie, but it's annoying.
They are cute, and this is a lot of stereotypes being confirmed here. I think they had to leave early because the early bird special down at Denny's is only served between like 3 and 5, and so they have to go get their seniors discount. But I did a video last week, and I will say it again and again. I'm not picking on boomers. I'm picking on the liberal ones.
Right.
Okay.
And it's not all boomers. We know. We see you in the comments.
I know it's not you. I'm out there delivering signs on the weekend. I know our Western boomers are different. I get it. We call you bloomers because you're just true blue conservatives. But you guys, younger people out there, you got to visit your grandparents before Mark Carney does, because they're getting radicalized.
And to the younger people out there, you can walk faster than those guys.
Yeah, knock the doors in front of them. Put a wiggle in it.
Faster than them. But you know what? I guess we should say, I'm assuming that's connected to the by-election in North Vancouver, Capilano, which I haven't had time to really look into. But I'm just letting you guys know there is a by-election happening right now. Of course, there's a Conservative candidate running, and there is the Liberal candidate. And you see the boomers are out there getting their exercise. So I'm not lobbying for a party. I'm just saying that's the news.
Yeah, you're right. Are right, Drea. You can beat these guys at the door. You can. So do it.
Yeah.
Wow. That could be a Forever Canadian campaign event right there. Like it's the same people.
Yeah.
Stereotypes. JP Alberta First gives us $10 and says, I wonder if the Marxist informant was allowed to vote. Who knows? Maybe that's another law he broke.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, what I can tell you is he can vote in a Liberal nomination, and he can vote to choose the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada,
Right,
which
that's
will
true.
ultimately be the Prime Minister. So while he may not legally be able to vote in a federal election, he can vote in the party selection process. And in safe ridings, those nominees go on to be the MPs every single time.
And donate.
Yep. All right. I think that's it. We went over. I have a busy day. Drea, you got one too. Why don't you wrap the show?
Yes, I do have a busy day because we have what hopefully is the final cut of the Ostrich Farm documentary. Very excited for you guys to see that. It's a story that must be told. It's cost more than we thought to do and taken a little longer. So if you want to help cover those costs, you can do so at cullingthecure.com. I enjoyed subbing on the show. Thank you, Sheila. Wonderful host.
Hey, Drea, before you wrap up,
yeah,
I know you're looking for venues. Now, I've got two
Oh, yeah,
in the
that's
Edmonton area.
true, you
I've got
guys.
two in the Edmonton area in mind. Chris Scott, I'm talking about you. Just putting it out there. I've got two in mind in the Edmonton, sort of central Alberta area that I think would be willing to screen your ostrich documentary. But I know you're still looking for other venues.
Yeah, especially in British Columbia. We want to obviously go in the Okanagan area, which is close to where the farm is. And we'd love to do the Lower Mainland. And we'd love, if possible, to have, a theater vibe at least there. So if you know a good space for us that has a nice big wide screen and can fit enough people who want to come and watch, you can reach out to me at drea@rebelnews.com and in other areas too. That's a very good idea. So yeah, thank you, Sheila, for hosting the show. Thank you for everybody behind the scenes who keeps everything running. We're always throwing things at them. So Olivia and Efron. And most importantly, thank you for everybody watching who keeps Rebel News alive to tell the news.
Hello everyone, it's Alex Lavoie from Rebel News, and I have some big news I've been dying to share with you. I'm officially going on this year's news cruise, and I want you right there with me. So write this down, thenewscruise.com. That's where you go and reserve your cabin. And I will say it again before we are done, so stick with me. Here is what makes this year so special. For the very first time, Rebel News is teaming up with our friends at Juno News. Two independent newsrooms, one unforgettable week at sea. We set sail on Saturday, November 20th, out of Fort Lauderdale, aboard Holland America Line's gorgeous MS Eurodam. 7 full nights in the Eastern Caribbean, returning Saturday, December 5th. And the itinerary is stunning. We will visit Grand Turk, San Juan in Puerto Rico, San Thomas, and Half Moon Cay, with relaxing days at sea in between. Sunshine, spectacular beaches, incredible food, and the best company you could ask for. But honestly, it's not really about the palm trees. It's about the people. You will get to spend the week with me, Ezra Levin, Keen Bexley, constitutional lawyer John Carpay, and journalists from both Rebel News and Juno News, like my colleague David de Menzoy-Menzi. When the ship is at sea, we host private receptions, exclusive panels, Q&A sessions, and roundtables. Candid, off-the-record conversations you won't find anywhere else. And every single night at dinner, we rotate seats. So over the course of the week, you will actually sit down and talk with all of us. No cameras, no scripts, just real conversation. Now, here's the thing. Every cruise we have ever run has sold out. And this year, with Juno News joining us, demand is higher than ever. The best cabins, especially the balconies, always go first. So don't wait. Go to thenewscruise.com right now to explore your cabin's options and book your spot. Or if you got questions, give us a call at 1-800-707-1634. I cannot wait to see you on board. This is going to be a week